The wind howled across the desolate Siberian landscape like a wounded animal, carrying whispers of a nightmare that had been waiting decades to be unleashed. Dr. Elena Volkov stood at the entrance of Research Station Omega, her breath crystallizing in the -40-degree air, knowing that the mission ahead would either save humanity or become its ultimate destruction. Assembled were 5 of the most specialized professionals ever brought together for a classified mission. Dr. Elena Volkov, virological researcher, lead scientist with a controversial past. Marcus Chen, quantum geneticist, expert in cellular transformation. Sarah Reyes, Special Forces biological threat specialist. Dr. Robert Hartley, forensic pathologist with extensive field experience. Jack Sullivan, communications and cryptography expert. The Crimson Protocol was more than just a research project. It was a desperate attempt to understand and potentially control a biological anomaly discovered during a top-secret Soviet-era experiment that had gone catastrophically wrong in 1967. Buried deep beneath layers of permafrost and government secrecy, the original research site had been sealed for over 5 decades. Satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar had recently revealed something impossible. The research facility was showing signs of active biological signature decades after it should have been completely inert. As their specialized Arctic transport vehicle approached the coordinates, the team's equipment began to malfunction. Quantum sensors, designed to detect microscopic biological signatures, started producing readings that defied all known scientific understanding. Temperature fluctuations appeared randomly, creating localized zones where electromagnetic fields twisted and warped in impossible patterns. Elena's personal history made her uniquely qualified for this mission. Her grandfather had been part of the original research team, a brilliant virologist who disappeared during the initial experiments. Family rumors suggested he had uncovered something so profound, so terrifying, that the Soviet government had systematically erased all traces of his existence. The research facility emerged from the snow like a concrete monolith, its structure surprisingly intact despite being abandoned for decades. Massive blast doors, sealed with advanced locking mechanisms that seemed more advanced than the era's technology, protected whatever secrets lay within. Sarah's tactical expertise identified immediate anomalies. The facility's defensive systems were still operational, suggesting ongoing maintenance that was impossible given its supposed abandonment. Thermal signatures indicated movement within the complex, though no heat sources could be definitively identified. As they breached the outer security perimeter, the first signs of the horror became apparent. Preserved biological specimens, suspended in containment units, showed signs of cellular activity that should have been impossible. Organisms that had been frozen for decades were displaying microscopic movements, subtle yet undeniably alive. Marcus's quantum genetic scanner revealed the true nightmare. These weren't simply preserved specimens. They were evolving, adapting, creating complex biological networks that suggested a form of collective intelligence far beyond current scientific understanding. The Crimson Protocol, they discovered, was not just a research project. It was an attempt to create a new form of biological entity, a hybrid organism capable of surviving in extreme environments, with the ability to adapt and transform at a cellular level that defied all known biological laws. Dr. Hartley's forensic analysis uncovered medical records that painted a terrifying picture. The original research subjects were not volunteers, but prisoners and political dissidents, people whose disappearance would go unnoticed. Experimental procedures had transformed them into something that was neither human nor entirely alien. Jack's cryptography skills began decoding fragmented computer records, revealing a conspiracy that stretched across multiple government agencies. The Crimson Protocol was part of a larger initiative to create biological weapons that could think, adapt, and potentially operate with a form of collective consciousness. As they delved deeper into the facility, the line between research and survival began to blur. The biological entities they had initially come to study were not dormant. They were waiting to be awakened, to complete a mission set in motion decades ago. The facility itself seemed alive. Corridors shifted. Mechanical systems responded to their presence with an intelligence that suggested something more than mere programmed responses. Shadows. Shadows moved in peripheral vision, always just beyond clear perception. Quote, each team member began experiencing physiological and psychological changes, as heightened sensory perception, unexplained memory fragments, and a growing sense of connection to something larger than individual consciousness. They were no longer just researchers. They had become part of an experiment far more complex and terrifying than they could have imagined. The final revelation would challenge everything they understood about human existence, biological potential, and the nature of consciousness itself. Quote, The moral of the story is, scientific pursuit, without ethical boundaries, can lead to consequences that fundamentally transform our understanding of life, consciousness, and humanity's place in the universe. Now it's your turn. If you discovered a scientific breakthrough that could fundamentally alter human existence, would you reveal it to the world? How far would you go to survive if you realized you were becoming something beyond human? Quote, what ethical limits should exist in biological and genetic research? How might collective consciousness challenge our current understanding of individual identity? If you could communicate with a life form completely alien to human experience, what would you want to know?